Hey everyone, welcome back for another crash course. This one's going to be on anatomy and physiology of the respiratory system. Talk a touch on pathophysiology, but that's not really the focus of this. Um, this crash course is mainly geared just getting some of the basics for the anatomy and physiology of the respiratory system to set us up to talk about the pathophysiology involved in COVID-19, as well as treatments and medical procedures involved in COVID-19. So the first thing we'll look at is the upper respiratory system. This is a picture from Gray's Anatomy book, which he published in 1918. Has amazing drawings on human anatomy, and the nares are the opening to the nasal cavity here, and this is what it gets swabbed when people go and get tested. And if you hold your index finger up to your nose and kind of hold it back, that's about as far back as your nasal cavity goes before it hits the nasopharynx here. The pharynx is your throat, or what most people call the throat, and you have the oropharynx and nasopharynx, and then the laryngeal part of the pharynx as well. So this is what gets swabbed. You can see how far back it goes. People are pretty surprised. They often joke around that we tickled their brain when we took a nasal sample there, test them for respiratory viruses. Obviously your oral airway here, tongue, and then larynx with the glottis in there, which is the opening into the down into the trachea. And this kind of separates the upper respiratory system from the lower respiratory system. And the larynx there, you have a bunch of cartilages in there, and one of the main cartilages is what people call the Adam's apple that you can see. So this is the upper airway. It does play a role in COVID, like we discussed, and we're going to come back to it when we talk about medical procedures later. For now, let's move on to the lower respiratory anatomy, and this has a bit more going on. The trachea is what forms after the larynx. So there's our thyroid cartilage, the Adam's apple this is all larynx that I colored kind of yellowish here. And then we get the trachea. All these bands are cartilage bands, and they're very rigid to help hold these tubes, hold their shape. And then this cartilage down here that looks like, well, some people say it looks kind of like a Speedo, we'll say, is where the division, where the trachea bifurcates into the bronchi. Your bronchial tree, it's called a tree, you can see because it branches everywhere, has a number of divisions. And we have the primary bronchi, or mainstem bronchi, and they break off into secondary or lobar bronchi, because they go to the lobes of the lung, and then those go into tertiary, and they further get smaller and smaller and smaller until we get to the alveoli. You do have 3 lobes on the right and 2 on the left, and we can talk a little bit about the bronchi in another episode, but when you talk about bronchitis, which is something people also discuss quite a bit, it's inflammation of these tubes. That's what we're talking about when people say they have bronchitis. Bronchiolitis would be inflammation of the bronchioles, the smaller ones down here. So bronchitis, the bigger ones, bronchiolitis, these smaller ones. Here's another picture from Gray's Anatomy with the heart in it, kind of showing all the vasculature, but also showing the parenchyma of the lung here that I colored yellow. And we're going to dive into this area now. So I made a little drawing. I hope it's not too bad. And those bronchioles, as they go down, they end up terminating in an alveolus. And these are very, very thin epithelial cells. Epithelial cells are what line and cover our organs and also make glands. And oxygen, obviously, is going to come in, right, when we inhale. And here's our capillary. See, I put some red blood cells in there. And the oxygen concentration should be higher in the alveoli than in the blood coming in to the lung. And so it should follow its concentration gradient and be forced into the blood. And this is very, very thin, or it should be very, very, very thin. These are very thin, simple squamous epithelial cells, and these are also simple squamous epithelial cells. I just didn't draw 2 rows of them. In here. And then CO2 should likewise leave. It should be in a higher concentration coming in the blood, and then it should diffuse across into the alveoli, and then we exhale and we blow off that CO2. Now, there are 2 types of cells in here. There's type 1 pneumocytes, and those are just our simple squamous epithelial cells. They're also type 2 pneumocytes, and they're really important for COVID-19 and for a number of reasons. The big thing we'll just say right now about them is that they make surfactant. Now, surfactant is anything that, a surfactant is anything that breaks up um, the surface tension of water. Water, if you ever get a cup and you fill it up, sometimes you'll overfill it and you'll go, oh, it's going to spill, but it'll kind of hang on to the edge. And that's because water is very polar and it binds to itself and glass. And you can actually put things and float things on water because of the surface tension in those bonds that the water, the property of the water has. So the surfactant breaks that up because this is all lined with water. There's a little bit of water in here. It's not filled with water, but there's a little bit of water. And the alveoli have to expand and contract, and the lungs have to expand and contract as well. And so that surfactant breaks it up and makes it easy for us to um, inflate our lungs, more or less. If you ever want to try this, blow up a balloon and then put a little water inside the balloon and then try to blow it up. All right. Pressure gradients, again, so Boyle's law is something that I wanted to touch on here. Like I said, we'd have a little bit of physiology in this. And Boyle's law, the law states that the P1V1 equals P2V2, meaning that the pressure, well, let's say it this way. I don't want to do algebra right now. There's not enough time for that. So the simple version is that the pressure and volume are inversely related. So if we make our lungs bigger, right? If we expand them and make them bigger by using our muscles, then the volume is going to increase. That means that the pressure in our lungs decreases. That's because of Boyle's law, right? So we use our muscles to expand our chest, and as we do that, the lungs get bigger and the pressure drops. That's what causes the air from the outside around us to go into our lungs. We're decreasing the pressure in our lungs when we inhale and expand our lungs. And in all of the world, everything goes from a high concentration or high pressure or high temperature to a low something. So it goes from the high pressure in the outside external world into the low pressure in our lungs. And that's how that gas exchange works. Poisson's law, I know I'm butchering it, talks about flow. And this really gets into cardiovascular stuff, but it also gets into perfusion pressures as well. So this is relevant. So we're talking now, instead of the air coming in and out, we're really talking about the gases crossing this alveolar capillary membrane that we formed here. And it's the flow is a term of the difference in pressure divided by the resistance. Now, in theory, the difference in pressure should be relatively constant. In theory, the resistance is what can really change, and that's going to come up again in COVID when we talk about it. And so that's just something I wanted to bring up. Yeah. So again, when we inhale, when we take a breath, we use our muscles to do that, and we expand our lungs. And because of Boyle's law, as the lungs get bigger, the pressure drops inside of our lungs, the high pressure in the outside world then goes into our lungs. When we relax our muscles, they go back to they contract, and that's because there's elastic tissue in our lungs, and our lungs are very elastic. That's also an important concept to keep in mind. And so they just naturally kind of go back to a smaller shape, and as they contract, the volume decreases, and the pressure is now higher inside of our lungs than outside, and we exhale gas from our lungs. So that's how that's working. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's move on. I do want to cover a couple of important physiological concepts. One is acid-base balance. This again will come up. So CO2 you can think of as an acid, and we have this buffering system. We call it the bicarbonate buffering system. And if we have CO2 plus water, and then there's an enzyme called carbonic anhydrase that can turn that into carbonic acid. And these little arrows mean that this all goes back and forth. It's in an equilibrium. And the carbonic acid can dissociate into a hydrogen ion and bicarbonate. Bicarbonate's a weak base, and this hydrogen ion is acid. Like, this is what we refer to as acid. So if you get a lot of CO2, it will push this equation this way, and you'll end up with more acid. So in people who aren't able to breathe off CO2, and CO2 is building up inside the body, that makes the person more acidic, and that is something that we'll come back to as well. I also want to talk about lung capacities, because they will as well come up when we talk about COVID-19, and especially when we're talking about like ventilator settings. So inspiratory reserve volume, you can think about this as the amount of volume that you have that you could use but you don't typically use, right? Tidal volume is just your normal breath. If you're sitting there watching Netflix, not thinking about your breathing, this is your typical tidal volume. It's about 500 mLs. It varies based on a person's size and age. You also have your expiratory reserve volume, which again is this kind of amount of air that, or volume of air that, or space that you have that you're also not using, but on the expiratory side of things. There's also a residual volume, about 1,200 milliliters, that we just don't use, right? Now, here's how it works. There you're sitting on the couch, and then you decide, you know what, I have literally not moved today. I need to get up and do some activity. So you get up and you do a little workout on your phone, and you start breathing harder and harder. And at a certain point, you're going to reach your kind of vital capacity here, like the maximum amount of volume that you can move as a person. And that's because you're tapping into your inspiratory and expiratory reserve volumes, right, with it increased activity. I just want to talk about these because these are some volumes that'll come up. We already talked about how we breathe in that last slide again, but just so we understand, you know, the diaphragm is typically all we use. It's that muscle right underneath your rib cage. And when you contract it, it moves down and it pulls everything down, it opens everything up, opens the thoracic cavity, and makes those lungs expand, increasing the volume. Again, Boyle's law, air moves in because we've increased the volume, we've decreased the pressure, air goes from high pressure to low pressure, and we get air. We relax, everything goes back, shrinks, and the volume decreases, air goes out. That was a very quick little overview of the respiratory system. Hopefully it's good enough to get us to the next crash course where we'll be talking a little bit more about pathophysiology and medical procedures and treatments. Thanks for watching.